Hi, how's it in the name of Christ? How you doing? It's your girl Karabo. I hope you're good. I hope you're peachy. I hope you're stellar, and I hope you're in a neat little bunch. If you're not, welcome to the party. Let's just get straight into this. I'm just gonna put some caveats out there. Kindly look out for my captions. They're not always accurate. They sometimes use a small g for God. They sometimes misspelled, etc. All that jazz. That's not me. One day, God willing, in the future, I will edit them. Should there be a future, which at this point it just all seems very unlikely, but we'll see. Okay, it's not me. Like all the mistakes, the spelling errors, all that jazz, and also the wrong words being used, that's not me. I don't have time to edit them. I don't have an incentive to at present, because nobody watches my long form content. And then I'm very potentially wearing app makeup every so often. It falls off my face. Just look out for that. It's an app. All right. Okay. Cool. What else? Oh yeah, I have a segment. I just want to get it out the way because I'm under a severity of attack and I just need to get straight to the message. I pinch my cheeks. It's an empathy segment in order to bring out a blush to show that I've got blood in my body and that if you prick me, I will probably bleed, etc. That's the intention, to bring out a blush. If it doesn't come out, like, Papa, tomorrow's another day. Okay, I need to get to the point. Alrighty, so, yeah, alright. Guys, shoot. Alright, okay, so we're living in the last days. Okay, so yeah, alright, let's just get straight into it. Mockery, but it's okay. It's okay. So the work of desperate men, the work of desperate souls. I am scared for myself. If what I'm saying does not happen, I am scared for my life. I am. But I guess there is no need for me to be, right? I don't know how many times I can just read from the Word of God the same stuff over and over again, appearing to achieve no goals. So, like, how do I even begin to address this particular issue? How do I even begin to highlight these issues? You know what, guys, I used to believe, this is what's good. I used to believe that millennials and Gen X's, essentially older men, right? Older people, my generation and up, that they're the disease, that they're the gangrene, that they caused the incendiary behavior of Gen Z's and are actively contributing to the mutiny against Gen Alphas as a result. And the dream that I got last night was of just this circus of Gen Z men, young men who are, guys, you know what, like, listen, in the 21st century, people are exorbitantly experimental with all things perverted. They just test everything. They try everything, and you know, when money lands in the wrong hands, or in irresponsible or immature hands, the disquieting thing about that is that having not been chiseled by maturity, those people with the money will then just be dastardly rude, just incredibly rude. There is no rule in the Bible, okay, about men being older than women in marriages. If anything, there are examples in the scriptures where sons grew up to marry the widows of their late brothers in order that the name might be proliferated. So being young is or younger than a woman is not a sin. It's not a problem in the sight of God. And there are plenty of successful marriages where the guys are younger. But what needs to be comprehended is that when there is a problem in a generation or an era with the way that people think, then it becomes dangerous for women to be with men alright, so this is I'm getting to a point. You all know I do that, right? If at all you've been watching me, my content is only gonna get heard at a certain point, guys, and I've been pacing the floor, wondering, what is God showing me? Are we getting raptured? Are we going home? Are we getting married? What's going on? But there is going to be a day or a season, an era, a time that comes when all of a sudden, all of the work that I'm doing, all of it is going to suddenly get consumed because of some act of God that will cause that to happen. And so therefore, in retrospect, lots of my work is going to get watched in one fell sweep. And all I can do is conclude that that date, that time, that season must be after the rapture, because there are going to be people that are untrusted anymore to hear on the internet, precisely because they're still walking among you. And people are going to know exactly what happened, that Christians got taken. And before the era of deception where excuses are made as to what just happened, there will be a brief time where it is that people are speculating that this was the rapture. And so they are going to consume any and all social media content of everyone that left, everyone that disappeared. That's what I'm speculating. Lately, I've been speaking about how it is that we are likely at the rapture, we're close to it. But I also am not sure, because hope deferred makes the heart sick and a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. So with knowledge that my work is going to get consumed at some point, seeing as that's what God has shown me, I come here anyway. And I record these videos and I upload them and I work as hard as I do it. And these days I'm even adding thumbnails and what have you to try and get whatever little audience that will watch me now to join me where I'm going. That those people might be spared from what is coming, and from what I see, it is extremely horrific. All right. All I can do is speculate that that date, that season when all of a sudden my content is getting watched is after the rapture, but it could be just an act of God where he just makes a decision to set me free from the blockages that are sitting on me. The strange, ominous blockages that are preventing me from getting heard. The strange stuff that's getting me underestimated. The strange stuff that's making people just glide right by my work and not watch it. God could, because he's God, he's powerful, just lift it. So it's one of two things. He could just lift it and we're all still here, and one day I'm happy because my content is getting viewed. But from what the Lord showed me, my content is going to get viewed as a feast. It's going to be a consumption like at a buffet, where all of a sudden you're just watching everything in one fell sweep. And he did make it known that it will be succeeded, that feasting, by an event, by something that happened that would have caused that feasting to a point of causing retrospective viewing of my content because of digging up of prophecy, interest in what this woman said about this time that we're in. So all I can assume is that it's the rapture. And so therefore everything that I've basically been shown about what's going to happen in the tribulation and in the millennial reign will all of a sudden garner interest in people. And so they will watch me. So the stuff that I'm saying now, sometimes I get discouraged and I feel like, what's the point? What is the purpose of me speaking these things? Because I'm trying to inspire wisdom and a stayed hand. I am trying to disincentivize, discourage, essentially, worthless pursuits of my person and worthless endeavors of wicked people in their futility, given that it is soon going to be blown out the water and the individuals in questions are going to feel it just excruciatingly foolish for having done the things that they did to, never mind me, but Christians at all, in a spirit of no one is coming for them. I just opened the Bible right now to 2 Timothy 3. I also want to read potentially maybe in is it 1st or 2nd Thessalonians? I think it's 2nd Thessalonians and 1st, frankly. Okay, 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. The general climate of the human race at the time of the rapture, or at the time just before the rapture, or in the time of the end. It's that's what I'm trying to get at this point. That you might hopefully, if you're listening, because right now I'm getting listened to by some pretty ominous, dastardly, disgusting people that are making an observation of the scantily perused nature of my content, and granted the underestimation I am enduring therefore as a result, are freaking experimental with me in a space where they feel kind of entitled because, I mean, it's just a test, I'm just experimenting, and besides, it appears that nobody's coming for this woman, and so they're experimental, and these experiments are excruciating to come to comprehend, because it's like, what is with the disrespect? Yo, at the end of the day, I might be underestimated, but I do have my own faculties that are intact. I have much of my own things going on in my mind, and I have my own standards and everything that I've put aside and said to people, this is who I am. I have never in my life been this vehemently disrespected by freaking experimentation. People just testing stuff to see if ultimately, with all of her sorrow, maybe, just maybe, I should essentially be flattered, frankly. Because it says I must be beautiful, guys. I must be really amazing. I must be wonderful. For people to so desperately experiment on a complete stranger and so feverishly go back to the drawing board despite being told by that stranger time and time again that, ew, stop, you're disgusting. They keep trying because they feel like there's nothing, they feel like there's nothing to lose. And I'm here to help you understand that there is a lot to lose. There is a mighty amount to lose. There is a whole ocean to lose. And if you don't cease these hostilities against my person, you might not even be awarded an opportunity to realize that I was right. Because there's just a thing about ticks and pests that are preventing the work of God, discouraging God's people, that makes God just move them out the way. So you might not even be given that day of the Lord. You might not be given that rapture. You might not be given the opportunity to come and realize that, oh goodness, I was so freaking stupid. I was dumb. I was whack, wayward, recalcitrant. Like, you might not even be given the shot. That's what I'm getting at. And at this point, I could not give a rat's behind what happens to these people. But what is imperative to gauge is that the affliction is real, it's alive, and the discouragement is also real and alive. And the sense of the disrespect, I mean, goodness gracious, for me, it's the disrespect for me. Like, just the disrespect of what it is that I am, what it is that I've proclaimed on the rooftop time and time again, repetitively. I am, who I stand with, what I will and will not take in my stride. It is essentially clear that I am no nonsense. And yet, because of my life, people keep on experimenting. I must be freaking spectacular. I must be wonderful. For people to so exquisitely squander their souls over trying to see if they can't get something to give with this woman, given that nobody's coming for her. If at all a woman is worth your soul, she must be hella freaking spectacular. But at the end of the day, I'm just a vessel for God, being pushed to the end of herself in irritation. Do you understand what I'm saying? Trying to snatch from the flames of hell the very dastardly audience that is listening to me today. That's not the right ears, but the only ones described in 2 Timothy 3 that will in the last days be keen on listening to a struggling female you have been predicted and prophesied about. And so all I can do is go into 2 Timothy 3 and explain just what is going on. What is that phenomenon? What grain? What random weird groupthink are you walking in? And how specifically and particularly and accurately it has been prophesied long ago that there would be people like you. But on the receiving end of it as that person, I'm sorry, it's easier said than done. For me to have seen this coming, for me to have gone in the scriptures, read them, and therefore anticipated that such a thing as this would happen, does not make it any easier when it does happen. Just the fact that I'm forewarned and so therefore forearmed does not make it less disrespectful. It does not make it less hard to take in my stride. It does not make it less offensive, insulting, degrading, disintegrating. It does not make it any less obtuse on the part of those partaking in it. Albeit being predicted, it does not make it any less rough to take in one's stride. So I am livid, as I am constantly livid, but every so often I come some days less frantic, less frenetic than I am today. I am out of my mind annoyed with certain behavior, and this thing, it just confirms that we're at the end, guys. Because I've been saying, and I did a video just about a couple of days ago where I was speaking about how it is that I wanted your children, I wanted the youth, I wanted the Gen Zs, that I might spare them from being as dumb as millennials have become, that I might spare them from ending up the wicked freaks that Gen Xs are. I tried to get to them, but I couldn't, because rugs were pulled from underneath their feet, and now they are just a conglomerate of wicked little children out here making like their older brothers, their moms and their dads and grandmothers. I apologize, just the disrespect. Okay, give me a second. Okay, we've returned. I'm back. I've calmed down a little bit. I was doing some edits. Listen, alright. Hotelwa. 1997. Delel. Like, just blom. Disrespect, ne? Like, I don't understand. One second. Okay, so let's just get back to basics, rudimentary, elemental basics. The Lord created woman for man. Man was created first, and then the Lord said, it is not good for man to be alone, therefore I will make him a helper suitable. He then formulated Eve out of Adam's rib. Adam then, when Eve was around, he then said, this at last is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. I will name her woman. Her name is Eve. So necessarily, because of that order of events all throughout history, women have tended to be younger than men in relationships. But it is not because that's how God would have it be. It is because it's something that inherently dwells inside our bones that we understand generally is what makes sense in a relationship. Because when a woman is older than a man, or when she is too much older than him, when they're not peers, in other words, and she's too much older, there is a forgetfulness on the part of both parties, women and men alike, as to their gender roles. It is a problem that is inspired in their bones by the observation of the girth, grander, that is, of the woman when she is older. So it is not a rule in the Bible that we should marry men that are older than us. I have mentioned already earlier that younger men have married their brothers' widows in the Bible to proliferate the lineage. It was part of the traditions, the culture of the Hebrews of old type establishment thing. But you see, men were different back in the day, in that time and in that era. They were raised in a thorough comprehension of the patriarchy and what their role and purpose were. Plus, women generally were not making their own anything. They were catered to, taken care of. So therefore, there was an inherent responsibility in men, even if they were younger, when they married older women, to do that which the Lord God Almighty gave men a job to do concerning women. They are to be providers. They are to be protectors. They are to be the ones that are heading the household. Granted that sons were always awarded authority above daughters in olden days, despite the age of the women, despite the age of the girl children. Granted that men in the village, town, ecosystem, whatever, tended to take on the responsibility of protecting women and children. It was ingrained in them. It was like a birthright. It was like something that they were born to automatically walk in, and it was frowned upon when they didn't. They therefore aspired towards it. It therefore was not that problematic for a woman to be with a younger man, because this man would automatically protect, provide, and lead a household in spite of his age, given that little boys were leaders even above their older sisters. Given that men were raised up to be that thing in communities, it was a societal norm. So it was feasible then for an older woman to end up married to a younger man, especially in the whole interstate succession model of proliferating the lineage of the older brother that was supposed to be the baton. It's a whole thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, even the story of Ruth and Boaz, even though Ruth was younger than Boaz, much younger, that whole thing blessed Naomi with a lineage of grandchildren, because it was a proliferation of Naomi's late son, that which Boaz did. So it's almost as if though Boaz got rid of his own name for the sake of Naomi's son. It's just like a whole thing in that tradition, that culture. So therefore, Naomi could successfully look at Boaz as a son instead of even a son-in-law, if you understand what I'm saying. Anyway, those are old traditions, old customs, and they tended to be that way pretty much across cultures. It's just been that way, not just with the Hebrews, not just with the Jews. But there is this ugly little electric current that ran through modern society that absolutely shattered all that. It destroyed it and blew it out the water. Women raised up and became more feministic. Men raised up and became more misogynistic. They decimated their own roles. They saw it fit to comprehensively disregard what God will have you do. Hence why the Lord would even stipulate in the scriptures that if a man does not provide for his own household, especially members of his own immediate family, he is worse than an infidel and has denied the faith. It's because men started doing stuff like that. And it is also because women, listen to this, okay? Women, out of the frustration of not being taken care of sufficiently by the men who were supposed to take care of them, started to desire to pretty much make their own, head themselves, take care, nurture their children. Widows, in the scriptures, it is written that this is what makes for good religion. You must take care of widows and orphans, essentially those who don't take care of themselves. The only reason why that would need to even be stipulated, why that would need to be a commandment passed down, is because there was a whole derision, a scorn that fell upon a widow. If she was not young, especially if she was not young and could therefore be married off elsewhere. If a widow was old, there was sometimes like just a comprehensive abandonment of a woman. If she was not making her own money, if she was not eating, she was considered a burden. She was the scorn of society and derided by those who were around her. The Lord therefore had to implore his people to not do such an evil thing to widows. Take care of them. They're taking care of children who are the future generation. So there had to be laws, rules implanted by God to take care of widows and orphans, because therefore of the sorrow and the struggle of the widows, and women in general also dealing with hard men. Like in the scriptures it is written about Adam's judgment, that you are going to want to rule your wife, that desire to rule a woman, of course then spurred up in the heart of a man who's deceitful above all things and desperately wicked, born dead in trespasses and sins. It brought about issues like abuse. Basically an abuse of authority, abuse of power. God has given you authority. God has given you power to head a household. But then there are certain men who took that out of whack and started hitting some women. They started withholding provision as a means to control, to demand, to essentially, in a very totalitarian superpower sense, just lorded over her with an iron fist. It was the judgment. That then, of course, over time, produced great hostility in women, a passive aggression, and an intention to conquer this nonsense. And so over many years, across many societies, a whole bunch of women rose up and said, we want to work, we want to do stuff for ourselves, and we're sick and tired of all of this abuse. And then fast forward to the 21st century, it has produced these androgynous women who are entirely recalcitrant to their roles as women. And it has also produced misogynistic men who still feel entitled to running the show, protecting, serving, and providing, but with an iron fist, and feel now left out of their own role, which is God-given, meaning that therefore they cannot divorce from it. It is like a congenital birth, right? A congenital birth transference, a birth. It's like a genetic. I can't call it an anomaly. It's not an anomaly. It's a good thing. It is a generational birth right. It's who they're supposed to be from God. It is a spiritual award to head, to lead, to provide, to protect. It is a birthright. It is a God-given right that belongs to men. And given that it dwells in that spiritual original nature, given that it comes from so ancient a time, given that it is so rooted in our spiritual genome, whether or not society is trying to change its mind about how things ought to be, bottom line is, this here is a dormant gene that's dwelling inside men that if at all it's not fed, if at all it is not stewarded appropriately, if at all it is not given the right amount of nurturing, it will starve. And given that it's not going anywhere, it'll create a little bit of a zombie within itself from that starvation and eat flesh now. It will long and desire by any means necessary with an iron fist that which it has been starved from, even if it contributed to its own loss of clout, even if it was their own behavior that led them to a point of getting women so fed up that they don't want them anymore, that they don't need them anymore. Bottom line is, the spilt milk on the kitchen counter, it will cry over it. And so there will be a manifested passive aggression on the part of a man that is being lorded over by a woman. A man that is being run by a stronger woman that has got a much more girthy, thick lady in the room for a wife that is not as happy to be docile and submissive as the way that the original woman was. Whether or not they are retrained by modern society, hoping to indoctrinate them, whatever dwells in your spiritual genome will always rear its head when it is not fed, when it's not nourished, when it is not cultivated. It will not just die off because it's how God made us. It's how God made us. That's why women are naive, who think that they can do without men, who think that they can do without love romance, who imagine that it is plastic and namby-pamby to be doted over by a man who is chivalrous, opening doors for you. Women who think that they can be androgynous, making like King Kong on top of a mountaintop, bashing their chests because they're these like super females that can conquer some men. Yeah, that's why they just get so parched and like hungry look, dry lips later on in life. That's why they are so unhappy in marriages. That's why they get these cold roommates for husbands that are responding in passive aggression to all of that androgyny in them. It is naive. Ultimately, we default back to that which is our original state, okay? What God made us to be. Helper-suitables as women. Men are to love, protect, care for, nourish the needs of a woman. She was made for him as a helper-suitable, and he has a responsibility to guard that with all of his might. And when he doesn't, the woman is going to feel left out, ice cold, out in the darkness. And when women feel left out in the darkness, icy cold, that's when they start to manifest this bitter, broad, angry black woman problem, where they're angry at everyone, they're mad at everyone, they're gnashing their teeth at everyone, they hate young women, can't stand them, because you're still so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. You walking around with all of your I'm a little girl, I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. They get that bitter because they're not loved. They might claim to be cool with it, but later on it manifests in that bitter broad, that older lady that just is like frankly insufferable. Can't nobody deal. The root cause is a lack of love from the male, from the patriarchy. It is a lack of love from dad, from grandfather, from husband, from protective men in the community. When women do not get that, they become thunderous. It's written in God's word that an unloved woman who gets married, the earth cannot bear up under her. So when you come to Christ as a woman, you recognize that, especially when you're a woman born in the 21st century like Karabo. Well, no, I was born in the 20th century, but you get my point. I'm living in the 21st now. You realize that whatever it is that society trained you is not good for you. It is a gun to your head. It is suicidal. It is a denial of your core, inherent, basic biological needs. And if you go out of your way to disregard it, honey, at some point you're going to make like a pendulum and revert back. You're going to make like a boomerang and revert back. And you don't want to revert back when you're too old now, when it's too late, when you have comprehensively massacred your position as a female on the earth and what you ought to do, only to realize it wasn't broken, but you try to fix it. You will then try to patchwork it by being that bitter broad that's mean even to young women, because they're still so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and they are not as embittered as you are. The only reaction that men can ever slap a woman with who is that androgynous is to be passive-aggressive and withhold love. And since it is written in God's word that from when Eve was passed down in judgment, it was written of her that from now on your desire will be for your husband. So therefore it is inherently built in us. It's a congenital birthright too, or a birth problem, a birth status quo, just a chilling status quo as is. It's an as is event that we're going to want love from men. It's that basic. As a woman, you are just going to want to be loved by men. You are going to want it, and you suppressing it, trying to put it deep down in your subconscious because you think you're a hypnotherapist that can bring up whatever you want to bring up and suppress whatever you want to suppress. Do you, sister girl? But later on, you're going to manifest that bitter broad. Is that basic? Women that deny that in themselves ultimately, like literally get the hives of bitterness later on. The hives of aggression. The sooner you acknowledge who you are in Christ and your basic fundamental gender role, the happier you will likely be in life later on, and the more content you will be, and the better a mother you will be to your daughters. The better a mother you will be to your son. You're not going to be that horrific momster-in-law. Do you understand? That's going to give your daughter-in-law a hard time because you out here breastfeeding your child because your Oedipus's mom out here low-key making a husband out of your own kid. If you want to be a regular, normal human woman that was built in the image of God to do certain things a certain way, that you might not stray from the path of normalness, you will just acknowledge and admit very early on whether or not you're growing up in a feverish, crazy, gangster, hive mentality, ridiculous, essentially just groupthink, Dumbo, 21st century horde of educators of nonsense. Like proper. Irrespective of growing up in that cultural climate of insanity, bottom line is all of y'all as a consolidated human race will ultimately default to your gender role desires, even if you have ignored them in your earlier years. You will want respect as a man. You will want to protect, provide, and serve as a man. You will want to have the back of widows and orphans as a man. You will want to head an ecosystem as a man. Now that you've got a dominatrix wife, it is going to embitter you, just as it will also embitter a female, to have a man then grow all passive-aggressive, disregarding of her, comprehensively ignoring of the unfortunate soul, because I like them coy. Why do you think these dastardly males of the planet every so often leave their older wives who have already sort of kind of worn an androgyny because of the exhaustion and the fatigue that comes with marriage and all that jazz? For younger women, what they're seeking after is that ability to provide, that ability to protect, that ability to head, that young women tend to just be so damselly in a position to embrace in their stride. So the longer you as a female keep yourself needful of a man in a way that he is aware and capable of, the less likely you are going to end up bitter because your husband just refuses to love you. There is a book that I read, my goodness, and I tried to recommend it to a friend some years ago, and she was like, I'm sorry, no, it doesn't work out for me. It's just too, basically she was on that woman power tip, and I'm like, girl, there is no room for that in the kingdom of heaven. The name of the book is Fascinating Womanhood. I would recommend it to anybody. It's just basic principles of how in the world to be as a woman that a man might be maintained in doting over you even as you age. Why then do you think marriages of old lasted as long as they did? Women being loved as long as they were? It's because they were maintained in that fascinating womanhood, given that they were not indoctrinated by a dastardly culture of rubbish ideologies, nonsensical ideas. We are living in an unfortunate era, full of apostate randos, calling themselves Christians, however comprehensively disregarding what the Bible has to say about all such things as these. I am not against marrying a younger man. Personally, I don't want to do it, but I do not judge women who do it. What is problematic for me with younger men is the era that I am living in. It is this 21st century that I've been born in that has indoctrinated both men and women, and so it is hugely unlikely, just extremely unlikely, that I am going to be given exactly what I am in dire need of by a little Gen Z, Ben 10, boy toy that is experimental because of the doctrines of demons and destructive heresies that have been passed down to the present generation of men by the gospel of the entertainment industry, the gospel according to Hollywood, the gospel according to Nollywood, the gospel according to SABC, to DSTV, essentially just culture, okay? Like the gospel according to entertainment culture. We have been fed down our throats this worthless way of living that is being aspired up to and looked up to. The gospel according to YouTube influencer, the gospel according to Instagram influencer, the gospel according to TikTok influencer, the gospel according to whoever is being listened to by millions of people. Whether or not they have wisdom is irrelevant. What's important is the sheer numbers that are happy to hover around the cell phone screens and the television screens of this individual as this. That's all that matters. And if you can get yourself a crowd, honey, you can get yourself respected. And these days, what awards people crowds is not wisdom, but aesthetics, aesthetics, aesthetics. All that which glitters, that's not truly gold. It's how you look, okay? It's your beauty. It's how much skin you're willing to reveal. It's how gargantuan your nether regions are. It is all things that blow up social media content creators' profiles. And so the more cakey your makeup, the more you get viewed. And sometimes these people with this cakey makeup and these gargantuan buttocks are speaking what appears to be wisdom segments in their videos. They speak about relationships. They speak about life matters and big haughty things when they don't have the laundromat in their brains called the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ according to Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. They do not have God's wisdom, and so therefore what comes out of their mouths is rubbish, and they just run it and run it and run it. However, not first before hooking up a face beat, not first before cinching your waist with some application that is going to cause your background to shake about and move about a little bit because you obviously don't have that skinny waist. Whatever it is, that is a filter you can apply to make yourself look so amazing, so gorgeous, that people will linger on your words slightly more, is what gets you heard these days. And unfortunately, these people, it would be worth the while for them to apply all that filter snitching in of a waist if at all they were coming in the name of Christ, if at all you were drawing an audience to yourself with your cap cut face beat. But like, you've been laundered by the word of God. You have been washed. I personally use cap cut makeup because people, I just like it. It's cute, it's pretty. I could come here without it. I don't think it would make it, like really, I don't get viewed. There's no difference between videos where I am barefaced and videos where I'm wearing makeup. But what I'm trying to explain to you guys is this era of loving of self that is written about in 2 Timothy 3, is now imaginative, that all that is imperative for people to linger onto their words, for them to be, is just beautiful. It's just beautiful. And I mean, there are so many beautiful people on the earth, but they speak so many unbeautiful things. They speak so many just worthless things. If you just look a particular way, you, for the life of you, are going to get listened to. You're going to get watched. And if after being an Instagram model for 5 months and have garnered for yourself 1 million followers, you then decide to do a segment on relationships, now that people know who you are and they're interested on your viewpoint in life, you're going to speak smack rubbish to a bunch of girls that are going to respect your opinion. And never mind girls, but men too. So we all know that women in the 21st century age less intensely than women of old. Can't really explain what's going on over there. Maybe it's all these interventions, it's skincare, it's recognition that the sun is destructive to your face. It is a healthier generation. We are a lot more focused on eating right and working out. So the youth, like teenagers of old, looked a lot older than teenagers of old looked a lot older than the ones today. So too did our parents look a lot older than us at the same age. If you look at the photo side by side of your mother at your age with you at whatever age you are, you will discover that you look a lot younger than your mom. It could also be because of the quality of the camera. Just by mere virtue of it being older in the generation of your mom, you would perceive her to be older because of the quality of the camera, and the lighting as well therein. But there are also certain things and certain hairstyles that are attached to an older era, an older generation, and so therefore you generally look older when you are wearing that hairstyle. But our skin is not aging as fast, and our bodies are not aging as fast. We are also, like I said, more careful to cater to our weight and eating right and all that jazz. And we are also the most plastic surgery adoring generation of history at all. The moment a person sees one little fine line, they're going to the doctor. The moment they see the smallest little wrinkle, they're getting Botox, they're getting a facelift, they're getting lip injections, they're getting whatever. So the young adults are looking older than they would have back in the day, precisely because of all of these fillers. Look at Kylie Jenner. Do you know what I'm saying? But like, just in terms of the natural progression of aging, in light of sagging skin and all that jazz, it's not happening as fast because of all of these interventions. Surgery, never mind surgery, but what is this? Like injections, all these funny things that other people do, whatnot, make you look younger, older. And women are rushing like no man's business to cosmetic surgery, to doctors and what have you, to reverse the signs of aging because of a society that has become increasingly ageistic and disrespectful of women as they get older. But it is also a very licentious society, a very seducing society. It's extremely sensual, this 21st century that we live in. It's pornographic, frankly. More than sensual is even a light-hearted word at this point. It's just pornographic. And the pornographic nature of the world at present has caused a searing of people's consciences concerning that consumption of pornographic content. I'm not speaking triple X site. I'm speaking this whole practically like, rocking up just on social media with your bra and panty, but like you're calling it a bikini, and wearing like thongs at the beach. Stuff like that is pornographic. That's exactly what it is. But it's not viewed as such. It's just considered good old-fashioned I'm at the beach, right? And so women being able to now show their bodies are revealing the sculpting, the definition, the lack of cellulite, the tautness of skin, how gorgeous they are, because of how much they're always in the gym at even much older ages. Women are competing with their body's glory. And there has been a fad, a trend, a very diabolical one that has therefore reared its ugly head the past decade or two, where it is that older women, in a spirit of wanting to feel like they're still relevant, showing young men and women, just the world at all, that I still look 22 in a bikini. I still look 25 when I'm naked. They are going out of their way to show people that when I take off my clothing, you won't be able to know my age because of how much I'm always in the gym, because of how much with a surgery I've done, how many massages on my cellulite I do, blah blah, all that jazz. I look like this at 52. I look like this at 40. I look like this at 38. You get my point. And usually when they say, look at me looking like this at 39, they tend to be showing you their whole body. And indeed, they sometimes look better than some teenagers because they've been ripping their bodies up in that gymnasium. Congratulations, that is something that we can applaud. I can never ever have any beef with any woman's fitness journey, or man's for that matter. I have mad respect for fit people, mad respect. But there is a very dangerous line that the world has crossed right now, where it is that they've become intensely pornographic, to a point even of women now harassing men in gymnasiums with their cameras that they're using to record all of these gymnasium, sessions of theirs, and then claiming that these men are just salivating over them, ogling, hovering around in a great deal of sorrow. The Bible says, if anything causes you to sin, you must gouge it out, cut it off. But if you're a Christian If you're not a Christian, you're not going to have a natural understanding to gouge out your eye and cut off your hand. Seeing as men are just naturally visual. If at all you go to the gym wearing a thong that covers, that basically is skin tight, a skin tight thong. Because you know these pants that groove up their nether regions, their buttock crack. If you're going to be going to the gymnasium wearing nothing but a thong, because that's like a thong, it's probably like a thong because it draws out all the contours of your body. It does. And then you do a squat in a thong. Are you serious? It's a thong. It's literally a thong. There might be a whole bunch of latex on it, some material, some skin, you know, what do you call it, stretchy material over it. There might be that. We will acknowledge there is some color that is different from your own skin. There is a pink cloth on top of your thong. But nonetheless, if I can see every definition of your body, like your buttock crack, including even your nether region crack, your frontal crack, honey, you are naked. And if you are going to be doing a whole squat, legs spread apart and everything, naked, in front of a man, why wouldn't he not want to have sex? Why? Why wouldn't he get aroused? Why? I mean, why? Why? Like, Papa, if you are doing a squat naked in front of a heterosexual male, why would you not anticipate that he is out just scrolling free porn at the gym? That's exactly what's going on. But I mean, there's no telling any of these women any of this. In this world, they're going to continue in this licentiousness, in this lasciviousness. But if at all it is possible, I can snatch some from the flames to stop doing this thing. Though, I mean, like, going to the gym, it's bad enough going to the gym just wearing regular tights. But then when you go out of your way to make sure that they go right slap bang in the center of your body, like, what are you doing? Like, what in the world under heaven are you doing? What are you doing? So, of course, men are going to ogle at that. And if it's not a Christian man, he's not going to go out of his way to wear blinders, a cap at the gym that covers his eyes, and wear some big headphones, hunker down and cycle. Hunker down and lift, like, you know, weights. If at all he can't even work out at home or find another way or go to a male-only gym. A male-only gym. If he's not a Christian man that's going out of his way to cut off his hand and gouge out his eye, he is going to look. And so, of course, there's going to be a particular reaction. So, therefore, there has been a desensitizing, somewhat of a searing of a conscience, if you want to call it that, in humanity at all of us, men and women alike, of pornographic content. Just the inhalation of it is like we've developed a tolerance to it. Like, you know, when you go out in the sun after being in a dimly lit room, how does it do? Your eyes squint? Yeah, that whole squinting, after you've been in the sun for long enough, you stop squinting because your eyes adjust. They develop a tolerance to that light stimuli coming in. And so now you can walk around in the sun with your eyes properly opened. Yeah, well, those pornographic images have initially started out being like, you know, making our eyes squint. Because, whoa, like, what am I seeing? What am I seeing? But then after some time, your eyes develop a tolerance to it and you can just walk right by it, which is why it's so easy. For the level of nudity that you find across university campuses at the mall, the kinds of stuff that people wear, like the very few times that I go out and go to the mall, it's like, how in the world, Mom, have you gone out of the house with your daughter looking like that? These girls walking all over the show. And sometimes I look at the men that are in that mall just to gauge their reaction at this girl that's passing, to see what's going on. And when society is that easily pornographic without anybody wagging their heads at it, then of course then that activity is going to be expected sometimes even of Christians that are not even trying to go out like that. Now, I'm out here trying to rap on at length about my laments concerning younger men. Because of that kind of licentious, heavily pressurizing society where it is that women, in order to feel all approved, feel like they have to strip down, be naked, all that jazz, and then be loved. Older women, in the spirit of not ending up irrelevant, do you understand what I'm saying? All in an endeavor to not be written off as obsolete, are now going out of their way to do such strange stuff as that. You're finding 45-year-olds, 50-year-olds, also wearing those funny little strange things in the gymnasium or doing a short on YouTube with their fitness journey. Congratulations, I can never hate anybody's fitness. Showing their fitness and how well they're doing, and all of their thunder thighs and everything being out there as a like 48-year-old woman that is super fit, properly giving like 17-year-old girls a run for their money. But you can see her everything, her absolute everything. And it's all up for everybody to see. You see her pert breasts, that even though she's got 4 kids now, she's not pendulous. Her buttock that is up there just like a teenager's. Her thighs that are up there just like a teenager's. And what have you. And then she's either had a whole bunch of surgery or taken real good care of herself, so she still looks really good for her age. And this woman is obviously now salivating after the attention of anybody that will congratulate her for being so beautiful. Given that, as you get older, you tend to feel disregarded and ignored, frankly, obsolete in the presence of men. When then men who, of course, if you're doing a squat in a G-string, they're gonna be sexually aroused. When then you go out of your way to do that, you are drawing that attention to yourself. You are saying that I am up for grabs. Even as a 48-year-old woman, look at me, I'm just as sexually attractive as a teenage girl. I am just as sexually attractive as a woman in her early 20s, a woman in her 30s, even though I am 52. And so, who is looking at women at all that are pert, that who is constantly getting stimuli coming into his eyes all day, every day, of young, beautiful women who? It tends to be young, beautiful men. They are always in high schools. They are always in universities. They are always the interns in corporates. And so when they are getting similar visual stimuli to that which is just like the visual stimuli that they get daily at school, but this visual stimuli is obviously so much clearly a lot more, what is the word that I'm looking for? A lot less, yes, rather. Let's say it is a lot less iffy. It's a lot less picky. It is a lot more desperate. It is screaming and shouting for attention. It is exhausted from being ignored because it's older. And now it has proven that age ain't nothing but a number. Because look at me be still so beautiful at 45. And look at me still be so gorgeous in my body too at 45. So when then you out here doing the things that a 22-year-old that does not know any better, gyrating in a nightclub on a nightclub dance floor, but at 48, you are giving this dude the same kind of stimuli as the hard to get 22-year-old. That after doing that strange stuff on the nightclub floor, after twirling around like licorice on a stripper pole in the club, she is going to get flooded to by like 20 dudes in the club trying to holler at her, and she's got all those 20 options. She's got all of those 20 options. Do you understand? Now, when you give this dude the same stimuli as this 22-year-old guy, but like you have got 5 guys or 4 or 3 flooding at you, this man imagines himself as one that's got a better chance with you than with a 22-year-old. They're harder to get. The 25-year-olds are harder to get. The 30-year-olds are harder to get than the 45-year-olds. So when you are going out of your way to display all of your bourgeoisie in front of some younger kids, yeah, that's what's good. They are going to imagine that this here is a quick win. But just like with the 22-year-old girl on a nightclub floor, the dude is not already trying to get married, is he? He's just trying to see if he can't date the fly chick that's causing all the guys to go crazy. That's how men, when they're still young, think. Before they are solidly determined for marriage. The thing that motivates or inspires them to date tends to be, she's beautiful and every guy wants her, and if I get her, I win. I have conquered. I have achieved some feat. So when you're busy acting like a 22-year-old at 45 and you're single and you are hoping to get married, of course you are going to be salivated after, sometimes even by young men who keep getting these stimuli coming into their eyes everywhere they go, at school, everywhere they go, at work, everywhere they go on campus. And now here's a 45-year-old woman that looks pretty much like Sandra, the 25-year-old. I can hit that much faster than I can ever hit Sandra. Because Sandra's going to give me grief. Like, she's going to tell me Jabu and Tom and Jimmy and George all want me. So really, frankly, you are like number 4 on this list. Number 4. I'll see. I'll think about it. But the older woman is going to be what? Flattered. Flattered. To be gazed upon by a 28-year-old dude. Out here trying to get her number. Calling her sexy and all different kinds of weird stuff. Yeah. She is going to feel flattered. More even than Sandra ever can. I can speak to my own experiences when I was younger. Getting hollered at by dudes was annoying. It was irritating. It was the kind of stuff that would make you roll your eyes on some, oh, no, I don't want you, don't you see? You passed them so much shade. You felt irritated and annoyed. When they came to you, you rolled your eyes, you squinted. You felt like fainting. You were just bored. But over the years, especially in my squalor and my sorrow and my solitude, I've been isolated and broken off from the world at large. I am finding, therefore, that I am more attracted to men than I used to be when I was a kid. When I was younger, they were all just kind of, baza, no, don't touch me. But now, they're starting to look better. They're starting to look appropriate. I don't know, it's like age makes you suddenly appreciate that which when you were younger, you looked at on some, yeah. When you get older, men start to look better that you would not have even looked at when you were 25. It's a total thing. The other day, here, there was, I told you guys about the bandits that tried to steal some stuff from my mom's car, and there was like another robbery in the complex somewhere. Yeah, the ADT men came. Is it ADT? Like, basically neighborhood patrol. Yeah, they came. After that alert was made known. It was a lot of them. Like, there was something like 3 cars that came here. And in each car came out like 1.5 men, 2 to 1.5 men. Like some cars, they were like 2 men, and then some cars, 1 man was just driving. Of all different races. There was a black man. There were black men largely, and then there was a white man. There were 2 white men, and then there was an Indianish, colorish looking man. And when they were here asking questions as to what was going on, I remember just feeling like, oh my goodness, like I was so overwhelmed. I was so over all I could think, like, Papa, what was going on in my mind was, and I'm not joking right now, it's raining men. Hallelujah. I have not seen men in a minute. My life sucks. I have been hidden from the world. I've been buried, and I live with women, and the presence of men made me feel flustered. Do you understand? They were all men, and they were just oozing manhood, and all of them, I was just like, whoa. Like I found every last one of them attractive, and the one dude was this big round, like flip-flop wearing white dude that looked like he was the boss of everybody. And even I found attractive. There then was one that was hovering around on the fence here on some, so what's going on? Did you find the perpetrator? And I was looking at him as well. Another white man, he was a little, sort of kind of built in his stature, and he had a shaven head. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, there's one there by the wall too. Like all these men. There was some skinny one. There was a tall, thickish one. They all had different statures. And all I was thinking was, it's raining men. Like, what's going on? There are so many men. Like, oh my God, there are so many men. I promise you, prior to me losing everything and being entered into this obscurity, all of those men I would not have looked at even once. They're not the kinds of men that I would naturally be attracted to. But I was attracted to literally every last one of them, to a point of feeling flustered. That they were everywhere. It's like it was raining men. Hallelujah. That's what happens with, well, in my case, I'm traumatized, okay? I've been hidden for 10 years. But in the case of an aging woman, and a woman that's getting older, she will find not every, but a lot of men, a lot more men attractive than when she was younger, and in and of herself, that much more viable. That's just biology. That's just human psychology. It's the way that we are. We tend to appreciate things a lot more when we get older because we recognize that we took them for granted when we were younger. So everybody just looks a lot better over time. That is something that if you are wise, you will look out for. You will watch out for it, because you can't just run with anything. Frankly, even this like rando from America, I never would have dated him back in the day. If at all I was not found in this situation, in the squalor, if I was not robbed of affection, I would not have even looked at him twice. He was not the kind of man that I would look at. I was not attracted to him. Not like that. And yet somehow I found myself being his fiance for all of 5 seconds. He was oozing testosterone, and that was all that I was running with. I guess that's the epidemic that you find in boarding schools, where it is that girls there become little harlots sometimes when they meet with boys on the weekends, because they're always just seeing other girls around. It's just ideal to put children in a co-education school where it is that they're with boys and girls in one school sitting, so they don't develop a salivating urge or need or thirst or desire for male company. It is not good for man to be alone. You cannot therefore just leave Adam with Adam for too long. There must be Eve that comes in the room. Otherwise, it's just going to cause a grander drive or a grander thirst in Adam for Eve, to a point of promiscuity. A sexual proclivity will incline in him when then he's in the presence of Eves. That's why soldiers sleep with so many prostitutes when they're at war. It's because they just have not been seeing women this whole entire time. It's ideal for a homogeneous society that is, heterogeneous, with people in it walking up and down these streets, to always be in contact with each other, that people's lust might be brittled. However, even that brittling of lust that comes as a result of searing your own conscience from seeing enough naked girls on campus, or practically naked girls on campus, has also caused people who are used to seeing these images to feel entitled to anybody else that they feel attracted to, who similarly looks like these women. So there is an epidemic, therefore, in 2024 and counting, of young men essentially fetishizing older women. There is, and the reason why they even go out of the way to fetishize us is because There are so many older women working tooth and nail to attract young men. There are so many women my age, my peers, give or take younger by a couple of years, give or take older by a couple of years, that are literally going out of their way to draw to themselves the attention of younger men. And these women are also exhausted with older men because of all the things that come with men when they get older. They become slightly more perverted. They become less rational, reasonable with us as we get older, less appreciating of us. Yet younger guys tend to be less misogynistic. They tend to be less chauvinistic. They have not yet been hardened by culture and time. And so for those reasons, they're also a lot easier on the soul. They are easier to talk to. They are not as pompous, as arrogant. They have not yet arrived as much as older men have. And so the humility that tends to dwell in younger men as well is attractive to older women. Therefore, there is literally an epidemic now, therefore, in 2024 and counting, of all of these young all of these young males all over the show, dating older women. It's everywhere. Like I said, the gospel according to Hollywood. It is an epidemic. It is problematic. Women that used to be models in their youth are out here essentially giving clout to Gen Z boys on some, he's age appropriate. He has, what is this? He's over 18. He's over 21. And that's all that matters. Yo. What in the world? And these over 21 Gen Zs are being passed up, given a whole bunch of shade by Gen Z girls, by girls in high school, by girls in university, and by girls just starting out internships in corporate. They're passing them shade because they're still in the glory of their youth. They still have options of 20,000 guys in the club trying to holler at them. And they are now experimenting with lookalikes of these women, but who have aged. So basically, the model that you would never have gotten her back when she was a 25-year-old model. You wouldn't have touched her. She wouldn't have looked at you. But she is a 45-year-old that still looks like a 25-year-old model. But now, just because of her age, everybody's ignoring her. And so he's like, ooh, I'm gonna go and date Naomi Campbell. I'm gonna go and date Giselle Bundchen. I'm gonna go and date Eva Evangelista. You get my point? Like, I'm gonna go and date a woman that was a supermodel in the 80s and say, hey guys, remember that chick Twiggy? Yeah, she's my girl now. What in the world? That is an epidemic in the 21st century, where younger men are actively now seeking out, instead of them now being lured by older women, but they're seeking out what they call MILFs. Thank you. MILFs, like sexually attractive older women that were hot and bothered when they were kids, that were the envy of every woman and the desire of every man when they were 26. But now people are out there in these streets properly trying to ignore the chick. So I'll take her because I want to be able to front in front of my boys the fact that I banged a 90s supermodel. The fact that I banged an early 2000s supermodel. I banged an 80s supermodel. I'm out here dating Twiggy. Like what? And Twiggy's feeling flattered, except she's a fetish. She's feeling flattered, except she is a fetish. There is this epidemic of older women walking around with younger men. Gaps ridiculous. Like, look at Kim Kardashian. In my country, Ayanda Tabete. Like, guys, Megan Good after divorce. Like, yo, some of the like hottest, baddest chicks in the game that are still beautiful, still violently gorgeous today, out here allowing themselves to be defunded, derailed essentially in their clout by being with younger men, because the woman is the one whose reputation gets destroyed in this regard. It's always the woman. The man is the one that gets clout, and the woman is the one that looks like a desperate bit abroad. And the guy never lasts. He never lingers with the older woman. Uzoto Abantwana is another one in South Africa. Out here roaming around with some Gen Z babies. Roaming around with some like barely 18-year-olds. Roaming around with some 27-year-olds as a 43-year-old woman. What are you doing? While that was normal and okay in olden days, the reasons are different today for why it is therefore that it's not normal today. It's not okay today. Because men are not maintained in their patriarchal mindset. They are not who it is that they used to be back in the day. So a younger man taking on an older woman is no longer as innocuous as it used to be. It's no longer water under the bridge, nothing much really. And then later on, okay, they're still married. Now it's a fetish. Now it is a cultural epidemic. It's It's a fad, a today thing, a trend where younger men are just in increasing measure bringing around older women on their armpits. Guys, like, you know what, like, of course, as in Ishman, like, listen, okay, I'm born again. Like, I can't, like, guys, I'm saved. There was never ever gonna be a day in heaven or in hell in my redemption when I would ever allow myself to experiment net Gen Z. I already did a video explaining at length why this is problematic, especially in the 21st century. I don't have an issue with a guy that's like a year, 2, 3 years younger. Even then, it's a stretch. For me, I prefer him older at all. But I can take women in my stride who are dating or married to guys perhaps maximum 5 years younger. Because then you're still in the same age group. You're still the same generation, for crying out loud. But once a person skips over a generation, it's like, yo, what are you doing? You know, like, first of all, it's evident that men mature slower than women. And secondly, the reasons why this thing is done in the 21st century are wholeheartedly unwholesome and ungodly. They have nothing to do with a man trying to come into the life of a woman and love her the way that Christ has loved the church. Serve her needs, cater to her, protect, provide, and lead. It is highly unlikely in the 21st century that a 26-year-old dude would try and get with a 40-year-old woman because he is trying to love her as Christ loved the church, lead her in the admonition of the Lord that she might grow from strength to strength, provide for her, and protect. It is highly unlikely. What's rather going on in this 21st century is that this dude is salivating, fetishistic, grabbing a napkin, putting it in his shirt, and rubbing his hands together because he's about to go and feast on an experienced woman. It is an abomination. Let's move to the next part.